Hello, everybody. My name is Marty McLain. I'm here with David Johnson, and we are starting a brand new podcast. And this is our introductory episode. We are calling the podcast the Bonafide Man. So, as you can imagine, this podcast will be geared toward men. And David, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about bona fide?
Proven
Proven,
and real.
real.
So those are the two. Whenever we were talking through the name, both of those, bona fide, just means proven out.
Yeah.
You've proven out your worth. You're real. You're not counterfeit. So that was kind of my thought. So and it's a work in progress. Always, it's always a work in progress. You can lose that title very quickly. In my estimation.
Yeah, the Latin word is actually Latin. It means in good faith. And in the vernacular, we could say someone who is the real deal.
Yeah.
You remember the real deal Holyfield?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Remember when Tyson bit his ear off and it was the real deal?
He's a little bit less of a man than he was before he fought Tyson.
Lend me your ear. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, man. Just getting cranked up.
Those are those pasture jokes you just can't stop giving.
They should be put out in the pasture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are. We're talking about bona fide men because, there's a big conversation in our culture today about what is masculinity. The 2024 presidential election, of course, dealt a lot with masculinity. They were comparing, who Trump would have at his rallies, like Dana White and Hulk Hogan. That would be like what they'd say the Republican view of masculinity was. Or that's kind of like the overall narrative. And that Tim Walz, the vice presidential candidate for Kamala Harris, was the Democratic version of masculinity, more of a service-oriented type of view of masculinity. They wrote articles about it. Politico had a big deal about it. A lot of newspapers and reporters talked about the difference in masculinity. People want to throw in their toxic masculinity.
So, how did you come up with service-oriented masculinity?
Well, they said in this one article, Tim Walz was the type of guy that would, he'd take you to basketball practice and then take you home. Kind of like when your best, kind of like a best friend masculinity, kind of the guy you can always count on, which is, you need somebody you can always count on.
Yeah, but okay. I'll refrain from, because that's proven out not to be quite, what he was.
Yeah. And it became a big deal in the presidential election. Matter of fact, they've done I think a National Institute of Health study that found out that, now this is actually a study. I verified, I went back and looked it up, that if you have men that are leaning Democrat, if you shoot them up with some testosterone, they start going Republican. Did you know that?
Makes perfectly good sense to me.
Did you know they did another study that said men who are more muscled up, that have more muscles and are stronger, tend to go toward capitalism, and men who are weaker physically. Now, this is not across the board. This is some stuff that's out there in the culture, that men who are weaker tend to go towards socialism.
Yeah. Well, because you don't have the self-confidence to go do it on your own. Probably.
Stronger men tend to be self-reliant in a good way.
Yeah.
And when you're not self-reliant, you kind of sometimes want other people to take care of you.
Yeah. So, so Marty and I met as relatively young men. We were both in our early 20s, just starting our families. So we were probably 25, maybe 20, somewhere in
there. Mid 20s, old enough to get that discount with car insurance.
Barely. But we were both starting our families. So we've kind of seen us at our very beginnings, of learning what it's like to be a man. And we've kind of reconnected back in the last couple of years after going different directions. But, Marty, you've been a pastor for years and leading congregations, and I've been leading businesses and organizations like that. So it's not it's fun to hear as we've both grown, we've both kind of come to the same conclusions of what manhood is
Yeah.
and what it looks like from a not just from a man's point of view, but from God's point of view.
Yeah, I've been in ministry for over 30 years. I'm married for 35 years, 4 grown kids, 5 grandkids, 6 one on the way. David, you've been in all kinds of business situations and in leadership. You've been way up in companies, and we've kind of seen a lot of things come and go. And you see some guys that just don't make it.
Yeah.
They just don't make it. And it's sad when you see a man falter before the finish. I think it's sad anytime somebody just, you know, the wheels come off before the end of the race. And, as
Mm.
Christians, which we both are Christians, we believe what the Bible says that we're to live this life like we're in a race, and we're to run the race like we're going to win.
Yep.
And there's when you want to win a race, there's certain things you do. There's a mindset you've got to have. And somewhere along the way, men get beaten down, they get torn down,
Yeah.
they get it on all angles, and sometimes the load just gets a little too heavy for them,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
some just the wheels come off.
Yeah. I remember back whenever I was a young father, whenever we had our first child. I remember Tammy came, we were at the doctor and we found out we were pregnant. And, you put the smile on your face for your wife, you're excited. But the terror that I felt of knowing that all this was about to come down on me as responsibility was terrifying. And you look around and you see men doing it, and they seem to be just effortlessly being fathers, effortlessly being husbands, and, putting it all together. And you just wonder, how in the world am I going to do this? And,
Yeah.
it was, I won't say terrifying, but it was an awakening into a new level of what a man's going to have to be. And I've learned since that, if I could go back and tell that Dave what this Dave knows now, is that every guy I was looking at thinking they were doing it effortlessly had the same terror I had. And, we have to understand that it's the old thing, put one foot in front of the other every day and
Like the
just
wizard
keep,
on Year Without a Santa. I don't know, Santa Claus is coming to town.
yep. Do you want to sing it?
Put one foot in front of the other and soon you'll be
That's not
walking
singing it.
across the
No,
floor.
sing it.
No,
Sing it.
I'll do the spoken word. How about that?
Okay. All right. Then if you're not going to sing, you can't bring it up. So,
Okay.
all
Fair
right.
enough.
No, but it's that every day just showing up. That's the biggest part of the battle, because so many men don't show up. So many men give up and walk away, or they're so self-centered and they're so selfish that they never spend time with their wife, with their kids, and they don't realize that the biggest job they have in their life is taking those children and that wife to heaven with them. And so many times, and just because you do everything right doesn't mean that your kids are going to follow along a straight
Right.
path. But God does promise that they'll come back. God does promise that eventually, one day, He will bring them back, and I have found that to be true. So I think it's just like, who was it? It escapes me. Anyway, but it's if we're every day waking up, putting God in front of us, and just allowing Him to work through us, and our kids can see us. Our kids can see us pray. Our kids can see us giving ourselves to God every day. That's the best thing we can do as dads. And I think the biggest thing, Abba Father, it's more of an intimate daddy kind of name. And I think that's what we should ascribe to be to our children, is that affectionate father that loves them with a sternness and with a example that they can follow. I think I kind of threw that
If,
in there.
if you've been fortunate enough to have a good dad, which I was, I mean, I grew up with a involved dad, with a dad that I could look at and gain strength from. I mean, it makes a
Mhm.
difference. And
It
you look at
does.
its ills in society and goes back a lot of times to a fatherless home. And mothers are doing the best they can, and God bless them for all that they do, but you cannot replace a man in the home. You just can't. Now, some people are nowadays, when you start talking about being a man, and they want to take exception of that, and they have what they call toxic masculinity. And here's a definition I got for it over the internet, so we know it's right, right?
Of course.
Yes. Um, well, this type of what we call toxic masculinity is a name for the repression form of manhood characterized by a suppression of emotions except anger and pride, the use of violence or aggression uh, to assert dominance, and the rejection of anything perceived as feminine. That's what they would call toxic masculinity. And a lot of times, if you are, say, assertive, oh, that's toxic masculinity, or if you are aggressive, or whatever it may be, or if you're confident,
Yeah.
people they get all crazy with that term toxic masculinity. And I know AOC, Alexandria
Ocasio.
Ocasio Cortez.
Yeah.
AOC, you're really popular when they just know you by your letters. Nobody calls me MAR, Mar. Nobody does that. So, but here she is. She was making fun of a particular political guy, and she said it's not toxic masculinity; it's insecure masculinity. So some people say, well, if you are confident or assertive, you're insecure, and you're just doing that to mask. But that's not the case. Men are, I think I've heard somebody talk about the difference between men and women before. It's like before they go out, a woman will look in the mirror and she may look beautiful, but she'll look in the mirror and she'll see every her flaws and she'll just look, 10 minutes. But us guys, we'll go by the mirror and we'll look in the mirror and then we'll say, that's what I'm talking about. We're out the door. We think we look like, the best thing in the world and we're
Yeah.
leaving the house and we may look terrible. But, just men and women are different. And men need to be men and women need to be women. There's a couple of verses in 1 Corinthians 16, 13, and 14. They say, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong, let all that you do be done in love. And so that's such a great little passage of scripture there for men.
Yeah.
And
But,
men, as somebody has once said, men protect women and women civilize men. Which I think is pretty great.
yeah.
Uh,
So I think I've been around a lot of guys that have a tendency to um, err on the side of uh, discipline and no love. They want to be. They don't want to show that sensitive. So they don't ever want to show that loving side. And there's a lot of guys out there that just can't do it. But it's not toxic. It's just there are some guys. Look, trust me, I know some guys who are very toxic. I've got a couple of guys that I know
oh yeah,
that are very abusive and they have to be control everything. And I would call that's pretty. I wouldn't call it toxic. I think
yeah,
there's
I
a
understand.
jerk in there and they're dangerous.
Jerk
Um,
masculinity.
yeah. So, but I think most men have been taught that men don't cry. That men, there's a certain hardness you have to have, and there's a certain um, uh, barrier you have to keep up in order not to look weak. And I'm gonna tell you what, man, some of the best guys I know are pastors that tears would roll down their cheeks when they're preaching,
Yeah,
and that's just a compassion and a passion for something that's beyond them. That I've seen. I was watching. I don't know. Vody Balcom is a guy that I think a lot. I think the guy's a great preacher, and I don't agree with everything. We disagree on some things, but for the most part, that guy just a phenomenal preacher. And I was watching a clip from him the other day. Tears were streaming down both cheeks as he talked about Jesus.
yeah,
And that's, to me, that's true manhood. But I think
yeah.
most guys hold back. They don't raise their hands. They don't actually praise. You know, they don't get to the point where they show emotion. And I think that's an issue, but I don't think it's toxic. I think it's just personality or the way you've been brought up. I mean, my dad doesn't show that much emotion. I mean, he loves me. I know he loves me, but you know, it's not like it's, you know, talked about all the time. Not, you know, we don't go hugging and kissing on each other, but you know, I know he loves me, and I've got so many stories and so many examples of manhood through my dad, because he was who he was. And
Same here. Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. Toxic, you know, the toxic manhood thing is overspoken, because a guy like Hulk Hogan is called toxic because he's a wrestler.
Rips his shirt off, man.
Yeah, he's macho, but you know what? He's got a wife and kids. I guarantee they knew he loved them, and you hear him talk, and he's
May he rest in peace.
Yeah, yeah, may he rest in peace. But
And
you hear him talk, and yeah. Anyway,
I need some live examples.
Yeah, I don't have any live examples of great people anymore, man. Just me and you. Just me and you. But
yeah, you know, here's the things. Here's what our culture does to us. And some people, like, I won't mention names, but they like, this isn't a big deal. But I'm thinking, man, it just kind of rubs me the wrong way. The Super Bowl halftime shows, you know, they got Bad Bunny. It's a man from Puerto Rico. I don't even think he sings in English, but his name's Bad Bunny. And
isn't he a transgender guy too?
I think he has probably some issues with some stuff, from what I understand.
I don't pay attention to it.
Well, you know, the bunnies are always the bad character in all these, you know, shows like Hoodwinked and other cartoons. It's always the bunny. It's the bad guy. And now here is Bad Bunny. But, you know, you get this feminized form of masculinity at a football game. I mean, let's put some raw meat out there, you know, some red meat out there for some folks to, we don't want, you know, all this stuff with Bad Bunny. That's just another assault on masculinity. I think, you know, they try to feminize so much of our culture. I think there's been such a push back against the feminization of our culture, you know, when it pertains to men. Now, do you like the Rocky movies?
I love Rocky.
I remember going to see the first Rocky movie when I was a boy. Went to the theater to see it. I just heard a little bit about it. Went with my brother and a couple other guys. Phenomenal movie. I mean, I love all of them. I mean, you know, they could be as cheesy as they want to be, and I could be lactose intolerant, and I would still watch the movie. Seriously.
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, as long as there's good versus evil and good wins, I think, you know, there's a whole lot of things you can do with that. But, you know, Rocky was always definitely good versus there was a bad person, and you know,
here's the deal with the last one they made, the Rocky 6, and maybe there's one after that. I don't know. Maybe there's Rocky.
The Creeds. Well, the Creeds came out.
Yeah, Creeds came, but before that one, it was just Rocky Balboa, I think, number 6. You know, when he's like 60 years old, and he gets back in the boxing ring and you know, has that exhibition match against whatever the guy's name is, the world champion, and they go the distance, you know, and he really, you know, surprises everybody with as well as he does. But during that movie, there's a quote that he says to his son. It's one of my all-time favorite quotes. It's so good, I think a real person actually might have said it, but it was Rocky Balboa. Here's what he says, quote, "The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hit and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you are because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that. And you ain't no coward. You're better than that." Rocky Balboa.
There you go.
Can you beat that? I mean, can you beat that quote?
Nah, and hearing it read by a doctor, and the vernacular is just priceless, you know.
Life ain't all rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah. But
Not too good at Rocky Balboa. But
yeah, I love the Rocky movies. I love, you know, even back to and all through the 80s, you know, there was a resurgence of patriotism, and you saw so many good movies come out then.
Red Dawn,
All of
the original.
Yeah,
It was the
the
Russians, not North Koreans.
Yep. So yeah, to Red Dawn was a fantastic movie. You know, you saw Liza Sutherland's what was it, the Tom Cruise, Top Gun, all those movies that came out during that time were just such patriotic, you know, good versus evil. And there was a, you know, the hero was imperfect, but he learned and he became, you know, he became better, you know.
And
It's always,
imperfect hero.
yeah, but that's what everybody is, you know, we're all imperfect. You know, you don't finishing well in your life is a daily action. We do it every day. Every day you show up, you do the hard thing, not because you want to, but because you're supposed to. And you do it every day because faithfulness doesn't retire. You know, you don't get to a certain point, say, okay, I'm done. And I can, you know, it just, you live it day in and day out. And that's how you show up.
Yeah.
You know, I look at um, men's gatherings and you see a bunch of men, but you don't see their boys. You don't see their kids with them. Man, if you have a men's meeting, your kids need to be there. You know, I don't care how, if they're 5 years old or they need to be sitting there watching their dad worship God, watching their dad with other men, watching their dad be a man. And I think we don't do that. I think we leave the children home with our wives because we don't be bothered with a squirming 6-year-old or 7-year-old, you know.
Yeah.
But you know what? If they see their dad, you know, and they watch their dad, they're going to learn,
Yeah.
and they're going to learn what it's like to be a man from a very, very young age. But you know, men go hunting, they leave their sons at home. Well, he's not old enough yet. I want to go kill a deer. Well, you know what? If killing a deer is the most important thing to you, then you're doing it for the, you know, then you're living for the wrong reason. The
Yeah.
biggest thing y'all be doing is spending time with that boy.
You know, my oldest son, both my sons are like, I mean, they can tie me up in big knot and stuff me in the closet, and I wouldn't be able to get out, man. I mean, they're both I mean, they're pretty well built guys and everything. But my oldest one, when I was really busy at a church, had 3 kids. We had 3 kids within 30 months. And that's a lot, you know. And then we had our fourth one about 7 years later. But my oldest son, he was being homeschooled at the time. He was at home a lot with my wife and my 2 daughters. And I remember coming home one day and I saw him run like his mama. And I thought, no way, this
Yeah.
can't happen. And you know, sometimes when you're raising boys, especially, maybe you can be a little, I don't, well, maybe you can be a little bit too hard, but I knew that I had not, uh, trained him and been there for him like I needed to for, you know, with stuff like that. And today, man, you would never, ever think that would have ever been the case. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
man's man, and like I say, they would tie me in a knot and put me in a closet, and I'd be there for as long as you know, until they came back to get me. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember whenever my middle one, Devin, was 14, he was around 14 something. And I was on a mission. I'm not on a mission, on a business trip. And I got to take the family because it was one that I won. And we were in Dominican Republic, I think. And we were in the pool wrestling. And he was 14
wrestling, I love that.
wrestling. And, you know, he was at 14, he was broad shouldered. He's a lot like me, broad shouldered and just tough. And we wrestled in the pool and I won. When I got done, he made it 15. When I got done, other people said, that's the last time we wrestle. That hurt too bad. I won, but that hurt way too bad to beat me.
Might not win next time.
Yeah. So I'm gonna walk out undefeated, but well, you hurt me. And it did. It hurt. I hurt for 2 days after
Yeah.
wrestling. in the pool.
You know,
But
you boys need their dads, and dads
yeah,
need to be there for them. And well, I think one of the things that when you think about masculinity in our culture, and this is one of the, I mean, you've talked about this before. one of the most psychologically devastating events is you go back to the 1976 Olympics in Montreal. Bruce Jenner wins the decathlon. He is considered the world's greatest athlete. I mean, you can run 100 meters, you do the hurdles, the javelin, the high jump, shot put, long jump. I mean, all these events, was considered, I mean, he was on the Wheaties box, considered the greatest athlete in the world. Then you go into the future 30 or 40 years, and all of a sudden he wants to be called Caitlin and he wears dresses and high heels.
Yeah.
I don't think nothing demonstrates our culture any better and where we've come from and where we are now than Bruce Jenner. Bruce Jenner.
I saw a picture of Howard Cosell standing between Bruce Jenner
Him and O.J.
Simpson. And they said, O.J., he came back. Somebody came up in the future to tell Howard, you're not going to believe the future. And I'm just like, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
O.J. was I had two heroes when I was growing up, Ronald Reagan and O.J. Simpson.
Really?
Yeah, Ronald Reagan still won, but O.J.,
yeah, I mean, whenever you're high speed
O.J. at one time, O.J. was the epitome of cool, man. I mean, I'd watch him play football, the juice is loose. Then he'd make the Hertz rental car commercials. He'd run through the airport, jumping over luggage. And he had that smooth voice. And he just everything he did was cool, man. But then he got out.
Yeah, well, you never know. You never know.
You never know what's going through somebody's heart, man. You just never know.
That's like, we used to, when we were kids, we would show up for church and our kids would be screaming in the car, and we had just been arguing on the way to church about whatever is going on, and we get out and we saw as we were getting out their kids, all the kids are well behaved, and they're, how come we can't be like them? And we realized that they had the same screaming all the way to church, and they get out and say, yeah, right.
Now put on, we're at church, put on.
Yeah, everybody behave. So we're scaring with Jesus, but okay. We got to understand that we don't need others as our benchmark. Jesus should be our only benchmark. That should be who we aspire to be like, understanding that we'll never reach it. But it's just like the old quote, if you don't shoot for the sun, you're never going to get off you're never going to reach it, but you'll at least get off the ground, and we just need to make sure that we don't look at others as our benchmark, because that will just depress us.
Yeah.
If we look at Jesus as who we need to be like, makes it a lot more, a lot easier when you fail to reach it, because you know who he is.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh yeah. Now there's a book that's out. It's called "It's Good to Be a Man." Me and you have briefly talked about this before. I'm going to read a quote from it. And some people don't like the book. I really liked it. I thought it was a good book. Kind of goes with some of the movement. Doug Wilson, I think these guys may be somehow connected with him. But here's one of the quotes from the book, okay? And I want your hot take, okay? All right. Quote, "Patriarchy is inevitable. God has built it into the fabric of the cosmos. It is part of the divine created order. You could as soon smash it as you could smash gravity. It is natural and irrevocable." Cicero was right, quote, "Custom will never conquer nature, for it is always invincible," unquote. Men were made to rule. They always have and always will. Nothing can change that. Nothing will. It is not a question of whether men will be ruling, but which ones and how. This is what patriarchy is: the natural rulership of men. The term comes from Greek and means simply, quote, "father rule." So in that book, they're talking about men are going to rule. I mean, men are going to be in charge eventually. It's just a matter which ones and how. I mean, have you ever been downtown and you're like, oh man, look, there's a big group of women coming. We need to lock the car doors.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because men can be very dangerous.
Yeah. I think
And
good.
but somebody is going to rule, and within God's created order, I mean, He's made it for men to be in leadership.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean everything has to be, every company has to be run by a man or every country or whatever. But generally speaking,
Okay.
around the world, uh, it's going to be the men, and it's just a matter of which men and how they're going to do it.
Yeah. I think when you see uh, a woman in charge in a church or in, I won't say a business because women work their way up and they earn it, but in government, a lot of times it's because men have abdicated their responsibilities. Men
Yeah,
have given up their rightful place because they just won't stand up. And you get in these countries where you see men have been relegated to or they bought in, or maybe they bought into the idea that toxic man, they can't be a man's man. They can't be, so they don't. So they back up and that people have just bought into that lie. And I think you see that whenever you see men abdicate their responsibilities, you see the culture begin to slide.
yep,
There's an old quote. I can't remember who said it. He said, "But you can't slide up an iceberg. You have to slowly, notch by notch, climb your way up." And that's what
yep,
reputation is. That's what purpose is. That's what a great lived life is chink by chink, foothold by foothold, handhold by handhold, climbing up a hard mountain to prove that um, you were worthy.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think that's a pretty good picture because you can't slide up a hill. You're not going to do it by accident. You're not going to live a great life by accident. If you're not doing it on purpose, you're not going to be there. And so many times I've hired a guy that I thought was going to be awesome. I put him in a position of leadership. I had one guy that I thought he had great talent. He could manage numbers. He could do things that I couldn't do
yeah,
just because he could just contain all that knowledge and all those numbers in his head, and he could just do things that I submit. That's what I need for my group. I need that guy to run this part. So I worked with him, and he really bought into what we were doing. His thing had been that he'd always been a harsh person. So he had been in leadership. They knocked him down a couple notches, and I brought him back up. Well, when I left the company, he took over my position and slowly returned back to his old ways because he just couldn't see the benefit of leadership by example, leadership uh, by by leading, by showing them an example that they could follow. He went right back to thinking just beating, the beatings will continue until morale approves kind of atmosphere. And people who worked for me were calling me up in my new company saying, "Hey, you got a place for me over there? I want to come. You got any place I can go just to get out of here." And it was depressing to watch him destroy what we had built.
yeah.
And it was different. And
That's
the
sad.
guy, the guy claimed to be a Christian. The guy claimed to do, and he went to church, you know, every Sunday and every Wednesday. I mean, or I think they were Catholics. I don't know if it was Wednesday or not, but it was one other day. But it was, barely skin deep from
Yeah,
all in, but it's just, it's depressing to watch someone that you poured your time into that can't see the benefits of being a true leader and a true man. So, that's the part that I take really, really personal is whenever I have taken you and shown you, hey, this is what success looks like. This is where you need to be. And I'm not perfect. Trust me, I'm not ever saying that, but
right.
we did have a good thing going, and he just came in and just reverted back to what he had been, and just destroyed relationships, destroyed friendships that he had built, and it was tough to watch that. It was hurtful, but that's what some guys just can't. It's because they don't have the self worth, they don't have the confidence in themselves, so they have to take it on other people, and that's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah. You know what? Getting back to, some men do not know how to lead, and they do not know how to develop others, do not know how to develop their children, to nurture and love their
Yep.
wife. That's why mentorship is so important. Men learning from other men, and older men teaching younger men, say, "Hey, this is hard, but you can do it, and this is how you have to do it." And
Yeah.
men need that. Men need good examples. I'm always wanting to find good examples. I always want to find someone that loves the Lord, works hard, does the right thing. Uh, you know, regardless of what it is, you want to see a good example,
Yeah.
and that's why I love history. I love taking historical examples. I love the courage that some men have shown, even in the face of certain death.
Yeah.
Like the Alamo. I like the Alamo. I like the John Wayne Alamo. But you know what? I can also go with the Billy Bob Thornton Alamo, although it's still Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
Um, it's still good, but these guys they have consigned themselves to a certain death, uh, and they know they're going to die, but yet they're going to stay and fight because they're fighting for Texas.
Yeah.
And even to this day, we have the slogan "Remember the Alamo."
Yeah.
You know, you
It,
had Spartans, 300 Spartans. See those type movies.
yeah.
It's inspiring. Uh, when you see people who believe in something enough to be willing
Yeah.
to lay down their life for it.
Yeah.
And I think men especially that inspires, because we have an innate desire to protect, to provide. I think God's hardwired it into men. A lot of men will push it down, but it's good to be inspired by the examples
Yeah.
of other men.
Yeah. And, as men, we want to be the hero. But we want to be recognized. Like we want the applause. We want to hear the applause. But we got to realize that applause dies. You know, uh,
Right.
and eventually that applause is going to disappear. But we have to understand that if we're just conscious of the results right now, the immediate results, and we don't look at the long picture, the eternal picture, we're gonna be listening for that applause the whole time and not putting in the time to really grow a spiritual legacy.
Yeah.
You look back, it was I don't remember what the guy's name was. It was a shoe salesman that spoke, witnessed, I think, to Billy Sunday. And Billy Sunday got saved. And then, of course, Billy Graham was saved at Billy Sunday crusade. So you look at that one just shoe salesman that
Fight.
did what God told him to do. How many souls? I mean, untold,
Yeah.
untold.
Yeah.
How many souls his obedience resulted in?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? We're going to get to heaven and we're going to be like, oh, I bet that's his mansion right there. And, because, he's built on Billy Sunday
Mhm.
and Billy Graham's success,
Yeah.
it's all because he did what God told him to do. You
Yeah.
know, I think I've told you before, my biggest fear is I get to heaven and, we're at the judgment seat and God's, recognizes it. Dave, you made it. Your book, your name's in the book. Okay, here you go. And he hands me a trophy. And I said, oh, this is great. It's gold. It's got diamonds on it. And, it kind of turns out that guy, I said, oh, thank you guys. So I did a good job. Well, let me show you something. Takes me over to the door of the big cavern. It's got Dave's, you know, Dave's door or something. I don't know what it's going to say. It's going to say something about, we got my name on it. He's going to open up, and inside that door is a huge cavern full of gold and lives and souls and just things that I could have been responsible for. And he said, that's what I had for you.
Yeah.
And I look at my participation trophy now,
Your
and I'm
upward
like,
trophy. You've been playing upward sports in
yeah,
this life.
it's my upward trophy.
Come
And
on,
I'm
man.
like, you know, mm, I guess I shot a little bit
There
low,
are
guy.
winners and losers, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, but, if you think about it that way and you look at all the times that you've gone, "I don't have time. I can't," or whatever, I've learned and look, I'm a slow learner, so the first 50 years of my life, I probably missed a whole lot of opportunity. The last 5 years of my life, I've tried not to miss as much. I've
Right.
tried to be more attuned to what God wants me to do. And so now if I'm talking to a man and he says, "Hey, I've got this issue," I say, "Can I pray?" I don't say, "Hey, I'll pray for you." I say, "Can I pray for you now?" And I pray for him right then. I
Right.
don't put it off. I don't talk
Right. That's
about it.
good.
I
That's
pray for him
good.
right. And now I've got guys who call me up and say, "Hey, man, can you pray for me?" And that has done more for my heart. And I don't say that because I'm still the low man on the totem pole when it comes to quality, but it's that realization that I can make an impact on a man's heart if I just stop,
Yeah.
take some time,
Right.
and do that, and it's very, very, it does more for my heart than it does for them. I guarantee you that it does more for me to be able to stand in the gap for another man and pray for him and lift him up and then call and check on him and make sure that he knows that I care about him and I love him and I'm here for him.
Okay. That's right. And men need that because I mentioned earlier, and this kind of what we want to just kind of hit on real quick, is that not everybody finishes well. Not every man's going to finish well. I'm talking about believers, those who are
Uh-huh.
saved that know they're saved, but they just don't finish the race well. I've often thought when I go see a race, I don't go to see the start. I don't want to see the middle of the race. I want to see when they finish. I want to see how they finish. I want to see the ones that are finishing it, and when they get across that finish line, there's nothing left
In
because
the
they gave
tank.
it all. And I think that's the type of athlete. When you see an athlete that gives it all, there's a guy now who's a running back for New York Giants. His name's Cameron Scattaboo. You ever heard of him? Okay. He's crazy. I mean, this guy's like, I mean, they said he used to put on his brother's uh, football uniform and run into the telephone pole when he was a boy. I mean, the guy is just like, they say every run that he has is like an MMA fight. I mean, he's just very physical. And here's what his coach at Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham, I think it is. Here's what he says about him. He says, Scat's separating factor is his mentality. Scat has a mentality that he's going to be successful. Doesn't matter what he does, he's going to figure it out. Hopefully, other guys take that from Scat. He's going to make it because there is no other option for him. He's going to do whatever is necessary to make it. That goes on and off the field. So he says for him, there's no other option.
Yep. There's
And
it's that old I don't know if it's I don't know if you call it a wives' tale or a legend where was it Cortez, goes up and they're gonna go conquer and find the gold and told them to burn the ships. There's no way out. And if we're not
got
gonna
enough
leave unless
for it, baby.
let's go, put it all and your racing analogy, it goes right back to, hey, the tires are bald, the gas tank's empty, and you cross finish line ahead, and you just burn it all, leave it all there. That's where we need to be. But it
Yeah.
takes every day. Like I said, I mean, um, faithfulness is not is not a one day thing. It's
Yeah.
it's you don't retire from it. It's there, and
Day in
it's
and day out, baby.
yeah. Stay there.
One thing we want to do with this podcast is we're going to have guests on our podcast. It's just not going to be us two. We're going to have somebody somewhere, have a third square, maybe, or maybe we'll put them in a circle or a triangle.
Yeah,
We'll
make
have
them
them somewhere
different.
on the screen, and we're going to have folks that would add different perspectives, and it's all going to be with hopefully with the end result that we're going to encourage men to be godly men. We want you to be godly. We want you to be strong in the Lord. We don't want you to give up. Your
We
family
want
needs,
you.
your
Yeah,
your kids need
we
your
want men
wife.
that can, yeah, men that can come in from all different walks.
Yeah,
Professional, pastors, young fathers, old fathers, grandfathers. We'll have a lot of people on here, professionals. I mean, you've got some inroads to some people that will be very, very interesting, and we'll have some very interesting guests on.
And here's the deal. Dave and I, we both have had times of success in our lives, and we've also had times of not good success. We'll just say borderline failure. We're not talking moral, ethical. We're talking about, when things just don't go right sometimes. And I think that's one of the hardest things for people to understand is that sometimes you feel like you're doing what the Lord wants you to do. You're praying about things, you're seeking, the Lord's will, and they just don't turn out the way you think they should turn out. And, I wrote a book years ago called The Wilderness. And one of the episodes from scripture I talk about is when Jesus told his disciples to get in a boat and go to the other side, and they're caught in a storm. He told them to go to one place, and Jesus walks to them on the water. But then when they get to the other side, they're at a different place. They're not where he told them to go. But they went in the boat, they're in the water, but they didn't wind up where he said to go. They went somewhere else. And you know what they did? When Jesus got out of the boat, when they went to the other place, he got out and started healing people. He got out and the work kept going. So a lot of times it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Yeah.
And you got to be willing. Hey, when the boat gets on the other shore, you may not be winding up where you thought you were going to be, but you need to get out of the boat. You need to follow Jesus and keep getting the work done.
I mean, that is such a rich analogy, in my business life, right? Where I've gone through, there have been twists and turns. There have been some very, very harsh ends to some things that I thought just ended everything I'd worked for whenever God had other plans. And looking back at the trajectory of my career and where I am now, God was faithful in everything. He provided every time. And it was amazing for what I thought was a failure ended up being the stepping stone to something phenomenal.
Yeah.
And what we have to learn as men is that our value is not based on our achievements, our reputation. It's based ultimately on the fact that Jesus loved us, died for us. That's where we get our value. We all need to understand that we're number one. I'm number one. You're number one. Everybody's number one because we are all the one that God left the 99 for, right? So we're all that one. He would have done it all just for us. So your value comes not from, what you think is achievement. It comes from the value that God puts on you.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times you just got to get back to, it's a walk with Christ. It's knowing him. Read the book of Acts, read about Paul, especially toward the end of his missionary journeys. He was in prison and then he got shipwrecked. Then went to Rome and was in home confinement. And he could have been saying, hey, I still got a lot of good years. I mean, I need to be going around to these churches. Well, he was confined and he was writing letters to the churches that we have today in the Bible. I mean, we have their prison epistles. So you just never know what God's doing. You just got to trust him and don't give up. Well, I should have been this, I should have done that, or I made a wrong turn here, or I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I made the right decision. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. Then you just got to get over that.
Yeah. You got to understand God has a plan. Look at Moses. Moses' first 40 years was in the palace, right?
Yeah.
His second 40 years was in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Because whenever God called him, he had to know how to work the palace and he had to know how to live through the wilderness. So God prepared him for both.
Yep.
God prepared him for both pieces of his life that are both pieces of the puzzle that God was going to use to get the children where he wanted them to go. And, it was 80 years of teaching, but God used it. That is a long time. I'm not even halfway there. Oh, but I'm probably 2/3 of the way there now.
Yeah.
Eesh.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it happens, man. It happens quick. Life happens really quick.
It
That's why you
does.
want to you want to live the way the Lord wants you to, and just know it's like what Jesus said: "Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven." You want to live this life anticipating the life yet to come.
Yep.
You don't want to be like David and get out there and see Dave's closet full of goodies that Dave's not going to get.
Yeah. And I think somebody rude. I've told you before. I think one of the most surprised group of people at the end of their life is going to be churchgoers,
Yeah,
because guys will open up that book and it's just going to not be there. Their name's not going to be there
yeah, make sure you
because
save. Make sure you
yeah,
save.
and they're going to say, but I was in church every Sunday. Yeah, you were, but you never committed to me. But I came every Sunday and said, yeah, I saw you sitting in the back. I
Yeah,
saw you, but what did you do? What did you do for me?
yeah,
You know, and it's not about works. That's not what I'm saying. It's just they never came to the commitment to Christ. They never came to giving themselves to Christ,
got to
you
repent of
know,
your sins and place your faith in Christ. Just full
and
commitment.
turn and turn.
And again, it is a gift to receive, not a goal to achieve. So you're not going to work for it; you're going to receive it, but you receive it on His terms, and that's salvation. It's a good deal. That's the best deal. I mean, it's good news. That's why it's called good news. It's the gospel. That's what the gospel means. Good news.
Yep.
So always the way you have to look at it: somebody pays for your sins. Either you pay for them for all of eternity, or Jesus paid for them on the cross. And
Yep.
I think that's a pretty good deal. It's a
That's
really good deal.
how much easier it is to let him just pick up the tab.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Oh yeah.
it's
You're gonna be
a
fan
whole lot
for
easier, whole lot easier. But we get caught up in today, I mean, we don't think, we think that this is what it's all about. And this is just a vapor,
yeah,
this is just a puff of smoke in time. And we think this is where we got to spend our efforts, and our efforts should be over there heading
right,
toward eternity.
right.
And that's what it should all be about. We should be that like you said, I mean, the tire should be bald, and the gas tank should be empty when we get done with this life.
Oh,
And
right. Don't leave any, don't leave anything in the tank.
nope.
Yeah.
But we all do. We all do. We all lose sight, and we all uh lose
Got to
focus there.
daily redirect yourself.
That's
Daily.
right. And that is what we want to cover on this podcast, is about accountability with other men, and
Yep.
accountability toward your Savior, accountability for what you're doing. Because if you don't have an accountability partner, who's going to hold you accountable? You're not. I mean, you're not going to hold yourself accountable. You're going
Trust
to
me,
make
I'll hold
excuses.
myself accountable.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where, if you're not intentional about your walk, you're not going to be successful about your
Right.
walk.
Right.
You have to be intentional.
Okay, guys, we are going to have guests, and we're going to hopefully help you get encouraged and strengthened in your walk with Christ. And by all means, don't give up. Don't
Never.
quit. Don't get stupid. When uh, Hurricane Katrina came through New Orleans, and they sent General Honore down there. He's a Cajun guy who was a Army general, and they set him to kind of oversee the cleanup efforts and all that down in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And General Honore was having a news conference, and I think another hurricane was about to hit the area called, I think it was Hurricane Rita or something like that. And he was trying to get people prepared for the hurricane that was about to come, that, they could get hit with another hurricane. And all the reporters were continually wanting to talk about Katrina. And do you remember what he said?
No.
He said, "Don't get stuck on stupid." You know? And I think guys out there, don't get stuck on stupid. Don't get stuck on stupid. If you're doing something stupid, stop doing something stupid. Just don't get stuck. Drop it, leave it, and get away from stupid.
Yeah. But understand too that, just like Paul said, that I want to do, I don't do. That I don't want to do, I do. And we're gonna make mistakes because we're human. Look at Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve walked with God every day, and they still chose sin.
Yeah.
You know,
Perfect environment
and
is not going to help you.
yeah, it's yeah, it's but it's intentional. Be intentional. That's what we want to talk about every week here, is being intentional with our faith, being intentional with our walk, being intentional with each other, and finding that brotherhood, that group of men who can build you up. And it may not be easy to find a group of men. You may have to look long and hard to find men who have the same heart, but it's worth the effort.
Yeah.
It's worth the effort.
All right. Well, we hope everybody has a great week, and we are looking forward to doing this podcast. And I'm Marty McLain with David Johnson, and we will see you later.
Love you guys.